So now we're going to move from histograms to ogives. We use the frequency distribution to take the raw data and clump it together, to group it together. Then we use the frequency distribution to talk about a histogram to make it very visual and talk about the individual frequencies of each class. We also talked a little bit about cumulative frequency, but this idea of an ogive is really going to focus on the cumulative frequency. And an ogive, even though it looks like Ogive is spelled like this, is really nothing more than a line graph. It's going to tell us what's happening as we move up the classes. It's going to sort of tell us where the big jumps are and where the sort of plateaus are, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to focus on the cumulative frequency, and we're going to focus on the class marks, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. So if you come down to the bottom down here, we're going to set up our axes the exact same way that we set it up for the histogram. The only difference is cumulative frequency is my left-hand margin, is my vertical axis. I'm going to make dots here. I'm not going to make boxes. I'm going to make dots because I want to make a line graph. I'm going to go to my cumulative frequency. Instead of putting that 2 right above the 35 or right above the 43, I'm actually going to try and put it right in the center. Do the same thing with the 10, the 20. I'm going to try and do the best I can and get it right in the center. And now all I'm going to do that I have those points put in there, now I'm just simply going to connect the dots. Connect these two together, and so on and so forth. And that's my ogive. What my ogive allows me to see is where are the steep slopes. The steeper the slope, the larger the increase, the higher the frequency in those areas. So I expect to see a very steep slope in this area. Because I see a steep slope in this area, I know that from here to here score-wise, so from 46.5-ish, that class that had that second class, to that fourth class, that's where my big jump was. That's where the majority of people fell, because that's where the steepest part of the curve was. I also know that if I look in this area here, there was very, very, very little increase. Which makes sense because there was only one person that fell in those two classes. Anytime you end up with a horizontal line, a slope of 0, you know you're talking about a frequency of 0. So nobody fell, or no object or no subject fell into that particular class. Also keep in mind that this thing needs to end at your end value. So in this particular case, there must have been 36 people that took this test. So then my ogive must come over to 36. Also keep in mind, your ogive can never come back down. It's always going to be rising. It's always going to look like a set of steps. So in conclusion, basically an ogive is just taking a histogram and it's turning it into a cumulative representation of what's happening, so we can see what's happening as we move up the classes. This will be very valuable when we talk about percentiles later.